The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is brought to you by Clinica Sierra Vista.
Welcome back to the 17 News at Sunrise podcast, where we share your news on your schedule.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
Good morning to you here at 5 a.m. Thanks for waking up with us. I'm Maddie Jansen alongside Alex Fisher.
Our time now is 5:03, and we are following some breaking news this morning in South Bakersfield at Panama Lane and Betty Street. We're going to turn things over to 17's Chris Burton. He is on scene with what he has learned so far this morning. Chris, good morning.
Alex, good morning. As you can see behind me, Bakersfield police have converged onto the small residential street again. This is Betty Street, just south of Panama in South Bakersfield. And it is an active scene. We have very few details to confirm at this point. One neighbor does tell me she heard gunshots this morning. And as we were arriving on scene, there was an ambulance parked just behind me. That ambulance has since left just in the past 10 minutes or so. Appeared to be somebody in that ambulance, but that's really all we can say at this point. Obviously, as this is a developing scene, we will be on scene and provide you guys with updates as the morning continues. But for now, live in Bakersfield, Chris Burton, 17 News.
Chris, thank you. We'll check back in as you learn more throughout the morning. A raging structure fire ripped through a building in Northeast Bakersfield Saturday night. Take a look. Emergency crews were called to Haley Street near Height Street for reports of the burning building around 10:45 p.m. Our 17 News crew on scene said you could feel the heat from the other side of the road. Multiple fire crews fought the flames using ladders to shoot water onto the building. One of the walls appeared to collapse. It's unclear what sparked the fire, whether anyone was inside when it happened or if anyone was hurt.
A bipartisan Senate group reached a framework for stricter gun safety laws over the weekend. This comes 3 weeks after 19 children and 2 teachers were killed when a teenager with an assault rifle opened fire at a Texas elementary school. NBC's Bree Jackson is in Washington with the very latest.
Following mass shooting, after mass shooting, after mass shooting, senators say they've reached a deal aimed at reducing gun violence.
Frankly, what made the difference this time was just how horrified millions of Americans have been.
Undoubtedly, there will be some further tweaks we're continuing to meet.
The framework would enhance background checks for gun buyers 18 to 21 years old, requiring them to check with local police. Senators also agreeing to help states take guns away from people deemed a threat, close a loophole that allowed some domestic abusers to buy guns despite their violent past, and provide money for school security and mental health.
Congress seems ready to reject the vice-like grip that the NRA has had on the Congress.
In a tweet, the NRA said, "We will make our position known when the full text of the bill is available."
Vote them out! Vote them out!
The deal comes amid public outcry for action, with nationwide March for Our Lives rallies this weekend demanding change to gun laws.
We have the power to vote people out who don't want to pass sensible gun legislation.
10 Republican senators have signed on to the bipartisan compromise. A positive sign, it could get the 60 votes needed to become law.
Comment on the gun reform deal.
President Biden saying it would be the most significant gun safety legislation to pass Congress in decades. Senators are pushing to vote on a final bill in the next couple of weeks and get it to the president's desk by the end of July. In Washington, I'm Bree Jackson for NBC News.
Also making news around the nation, it has been 6 years since 49 lives were lost in the Pulse nightclub shooting in Orlando. Last night, a remembrance ceremony was held at the Pulse Interim Memorial. The observance brought together families of victims, survivors, and trauma teams who worked that tragic evening. Speakers delivered messages of hope, unity, and encouragement, as well as calls for change. Each victim's name was read by family members.
Vice President Kamala Harris made an appearance at the Capitol Pride Festival in Washington, D.C. yesterday. During her brief remarks, Harris criticized Republican-led states that have passed dozens of laws targeting LGBTQ youth, including in Texas, where Governor Greg Abbott allowed the state to investigate reports of transgender youth receiving gender-confirming care as child abuse. Vice President Harris ended her speech by saying, "We will fight with pride."
Your time now is 5:07 and tomorrow is Flag Day. Here at KGET, we are still accepting worn out flags that need to be retired. You still have time to drop them off here at our TV studios at the corner of 22nd and L Streets during normal business hours. From there, Young Marines will help retire those flags appropriately.
Now to developments in this morning's January 6th committee hearing. We now know who will be testifying as the committee builds its case that former President Trump is responsible for the assault on the Capitol. Ali Rafa has more.
The January 6th committee revealing a key witness to testify tomorrow, former President Trump's 2020 campaign manager, Bill Stepien. The committee forcing him to testify by subpoena, stating last November that he supervised the conversion of the 2020 campaign operation into a disinformation campaign to overturn the election. That messaging, they say, was then echoed by the rioters. Former Fox News political editor Chris Steyerwalt also expected to testify.
I was asked to testify, and I gotta go.
Steyerwalt coming under fire from the former president after defending the network's decision to call Arizona for then-candidate Biden, the first major signal Trump would lose his re-election bid. Tomorrow's hearing expected to focus on how the deadly attack on the Capitol was no spontaneous riot, but the direct result of the former president's misinformation campaign.
The president absolutely tried to overthrow the will of the people.
Members confident their nearly year-long probe has produced sufficient evidence for a criminal indictment.
Once the evidence is accumulated by the Justice Department, it needs to make a decision about whether it can prove to a jury beyond a reasonable doubt the president's guilt or anyone else's. But they need to be investigated if there's credible evidence, which I think there is.
And you can watch live coverage of the January 6th Commission's second day of hearings scheduled to begin this morning at 7 a.m. That is right after 17 News at sunrise.
Also making news around the nation, 31 people were arrested for conspiracy to riot during a North Idaho Pride parade this weekend. A concerned resident alerted authorities of a U-Haul van filled with men in white masks while Pride in the Park was taking place Saturday. Officers were able to arrest the group at a traffic stop. The suspects are reported to be from different states, including Washington, Idaho, Texas, Arkansas, and Wyoming.
31 people were detained. They were all wearing similar attire. They had shields, shin guards, and other riot gear with them, including at least one smoke grenade. Those 31 individuals have been arrested for conspiracy to riot.
Sheriff's officials say the suspects appear to be affiliated with the group Patriot Front.
Now to the coronavirus, and the international travelers entering the United States will no longer be required to take a COVID-19 test. The change went into effect yesterday, officially ending one of the longest running travel restrictions of this pandemic. Most recently, inbound travelers, including U.S. citizens, were required to show proof of a negative COVID test a day before boarding U.S.-bound flights. Other countries, including the United Kingdom, have already dropped the testing entry requirement. The CDC plans to reassess the decision in 90 days.
A COVID-19 vaccine from Pfizer could be on the way for children under the age of 5. An analysis from the Food and Drug Administration on Sunday said Pfizer's vaccine appears to be safe and effective for kids under 5. According to the FDA's analysis, only about 3% of U.S. COVID-19 cases are in the 6-month-old to 4-year-old age group. The analysis comes ahead of the meeting Wednesday when the vaccine experts will vote on whether the shots are ready or not. The CDC will then convene its own expert panel to debate whether children need these vaccines.
Orson West should have celebrated his 5th birthday this weekend. He is one of 2 young brothers from California City believed dead after they were reported missing from their adoptive parents' home in California City, December 2020. And last week, adoptive parents Trezell and Jacqueline West were arraigned on new charges of involuntary manslaughter and conspiracy. The Wests were arrested in March on suspicion of killing 4-year-old Orrin and 3-year-old Orson. Prosecutors allege Orrin and Orson were killed about 3 months before the Wests reported them missing on December 21st, 2020. The boys' bodies have not been found. In all, the West faced 2 counts of second-degree murder, 2 counts of child cruelty, falsely reporting an emergency, involuntary manslaughter, and conspiracy. Trial remains set for July 25th. In your 17 follow-up file, 3 years ago, we introduced you to baby Nathan Aguirre, who was diagnosed with a rare genetic disorder with no known treatment. This weekend, a few small Bakersfield businesses organized a fundraiser for Aguirre to help fight back against the disease. 17's Marco Torres reports.
It might just look like a normal fundraiser to help a local family in need, but it's much more than that. It's about informing the community about a rare genetic disorder impacting 3-year-old Nathan Aguirre called cutis laxa type 3. It causes seizures, muscle spasms, and cataracts, and there are no known treatments.
Primarily raising awareness, that's all I care about. Letting people know that this disease is terrible and I wouldn't want to wish it on anybody.
Nathan's family working tirelessly to help him.
When you have a special needs child, there's just no time off at all. It takes a village to raise a child, so it takes even more to raise a child with special needs.
The National Organization for Rare Disorders say cutis laxa type 3 is incredibly rare, affecting only an estimated 400 families worldwide. Nathan's parents left their jobs to take care of him full-time. That's where this fundraiser comes in, local businesses joining forces to help the family and spread awareness.
We want to share baby Nathan's story. We want to provide them with help and the support that they can get from us to make it easier and to make it more comfortable for baby Nathan.
Nathan's parents fighting a hard battle against this disease, but never losing hope.
Honestly, all we can do is just care for him, love him, because I know this disease is not going to go away anytime soon. All we can do is just love and care for him right now.
If you'd like to donate to help Nathan Aguirre's family, we've posted a link to their GoFundMe on our website at kget.com. From East Bakersfield, Marco Torres, 17 News.
Love to see everyone rallying around that family.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is a production of KGET and Nexstar Media Group. For more on all of the headlines in today's show, head to kget.com.